let's look at this theme. And even without the climate change, it's not that there isn't reason already to consider change in food and agriculture, right? When I was a kid, we were 3 million on this billion. Now we're 7, and we are reaching 9 soon. So is there even enough land for this? Is it possible? And not only for food, because we're going bio-based. We need fibers, we need building material instead of concrete, and so on, and energy. And of course, making these assessments and guesswork is very difficult, depending on productivity of land and so on, and how can we increase that also. But the bold estimation land around up to 1 billion additional hectares for 2030, and that's about 10 times the size of Sweden, or 20 in the upper end. There might be land, but not where people live, and also that might be out of planetary boundaries for ecological development, affecting not only biodiversity but atmospheric circulation, taking away even more forests and so on. So how to go about this? But we have a lot of degraded land. Is that the way forward? Instead of taking away more forest. World Resources Institute claim that there are around 2 billion hectares of degraded forest land that can be restored. And most of this is indeed where people live. And then, I come from the forest side, I work with agroforestry and so on, and I talk about restoration. If you're an agriculturalist, you often talk about sustainable intensification, right? That's another buzzword. These two terms actually go and interact with each other and overlap, in a sense that a lot of this restoration is already in mosaic landscape, with degraded land, with forests left, and small fields and smallholders, and a lot of farming activities already. So what has to be done is that the productivity of the soils has to be restored. Agroforestry and whatever you can do to actually increase. And if you're in the agriculture field, that is sustainable intensification. If you look at the landscape scale, you can talk about restoration. So, okay, maybe. And then today's themes interact with this. Climate also changes, so that also effect that we need some change. And I'm sorry to say that this picture has a gloomy text which you can't see, but in a number of areas, of course, there will be less water. In some areas there will be more water. There is also tipping elements and effects in these, where circulation is changed and monsoons are affected, and apart from more variability, more flooding, more drought, there can also be major effects on the global circulation that would render large region being out of water or very much less water, and so on. So, but it's important to say that there is no common solution for every farmer in Africa, or by the way, every farmer in Scandinavia. There will be different challenges in different regions, but they all interconnect, and the 2030 agenda very nicely show the web of interaction in these challenges, between livelihoods, between agricultural development, and so on. So are there any common key components in development between production and consumer demand that we can sort of do better in coping with these challenges? Both within increased productivity, to adapt to possible climate change, and to get more fair and sustainable value chains that actually make countries and economies grow. And I have a couple of points here. let's start, and we can have an hour to discuss them. No, we should not do that, but and I will try to be brief. But of course, there are a number of things that relate to productivity, to making this productivity sustainable, to make incitements for investment for the farmers that should do it, that they actually could sell to a market, that there are even roads to the market, that there is a reasonable demand. What is the demand for? Is it for more energy or more water demanding products, or is it for other products? Can we affect this demand somehow? Um, do we have the knowledge to do this? If you want to sell these more expensive eco products or whatever, is there traceability in the value chains? Are they transparent and so on? So this is a bit complicated, but I think we will touch upon this today, and I'm looking forward to that. And for all these, what did I call them? Key components. There are also drivers and inhibitors for this sound development that we're looking for. And of course, I come from the university. First, I say we need education and research to do this. But it's not only for master students and PhDs. It's for consumers, for technical training. The technical training, both here and abroad and in the South, is declining. There are no people who are trained to be the entrepreneur, to do the extension and so on. All the agriculture schools are transferred to small universities in the South. So there is a range of education needed, and knowledge is power. And this has to be also based in these countries that has to change. We need, all of us, wherever we come from, ownership in the knowledge that we have. Another problem is the aging farmer community, which is also a common problem here and in Africa. We have an urban agenda, an urban cultural development. Did you see Resten av Sverige in SVT? A very interesting TV series if you're in Swedish. Who wants to do this bio-based development? Because there is a perception of rural development is what we did before. We don't need that anymore. Who should do it? And thirdly, the good connection between producer and consumer. In the South, this has developed from scratch, from subsistence farming to actually producing for a market that is just now emerging. And how will that be developed in a fair and sustainable way? Maybe we know about this in Sweden. Can we help? And how is it in Sweden? We have the most modern agriculture in the world, with fantastic animal health, low antibiotics use, and still high production. Can we do something about it? Maybe we should buy those products instead of buying from abroad. Maybe we can deliver some of this knowledge in these common challenges that we have.